The galaxy was in turmoil as the news spread like wildfire. Across hundreds of star systems, the alien council convened in panic. The humans, once allies, were gone. Without warning, their spaceships had vanished from the skies, their cities abandoned, and their communication lines cut off. No one knew where they had gone or why. It was as if they had disappeared into thin air. The once bustling human colonies, full of life and activity, now stood empty, silent, and still. The alien leaders couldn't understand it. Humanity had been at the heart of a powerful alliance, a key player in the ongoing galactic peace negotiations. Yet now, their absence was a mystery, and that uncertainty left everyone uneasy. At the heart of the council chamber, the leaders of various species gathered. They exchanged worried glances, whispering in hushed tones. Some blamed themselves, wondering if their actions had pushed the humans away. Others feared that something far worse had occurred. Had the humans discovered a weakness in their alliance, something that could bring down the entire galactic order? Was there a new threat they were preparing for? The thought of humans simply walking away from everything was unthinkable, but there was no denying the fact: the humans were gone, and no one knew why. The council leaders quickly ordered their best ships to search the human colonies. They sent scouts to every corner of the galaxy, hoping to find some clue, some sign of where the humans had gone. But all they found was silence. The human settlements were untouched, not a single sign of struggle or conflict. It was as though the humans had left on their own accord, without any force or external influence. The alien leaders couldn't wrap their minds around it. Humans were known for their resilience, their drive, and their determination. They never gave up so easily. So why had they left so suddenly? Meanwhile, the council called in their top intelligence officers to investigate. They examined the last known communications from the humans. What they found was strange. The humans had been preparing for something, but it wasn't clear what. There were reports of strange energy readings, signals from deep space, and whispers of an ancient artifact that could change the balance of power in the galaxy, but nothing concrete. No one could explain why the humans had acted the way they did. The more the council dug, the more questions arose. What had the humans discovered, and why had they walked away? The fear among the council grew with every passing hour. Some leaders began to panic, fearing the worst. What if the humans had found a way to escape their control, a way to hide from the alien powers that ruled the galaxy? What if they had uncovered a weapon powerful enough to destroy everything in their path? The rumors of an artifact, ancient and unknown, seemed to be the only explanation. But no one knew where to find it, or if it was even real. Some of the council members demanded to know what the humans had been hiding, while others tried to stay calm, insisting that the disappearance was nothing more than a strange anomaly. But the tension in the chamber was palpable, as every leader felt the weight of the uncertainty pressing down on them. Back on the human colonies, no one knew where the people had gone. Their ships were gone, but there was no sign of them leaving in a rush. Everything was left behind: food, belongings, even personal items. Everything that would have been packed away if the humans had fled in a hurry. Yet there was no trace of any attack or hostile force. It was as if they had simply made the decision to leave, to walk away from the galaxy they had once called home. But why? The council sent more ships to search, but the answers remained elusive. As the hours turned into days, the fear of the unknown began to take root. The aliens could not ignore the possibility that the humans had uncovered something that had given them the strength to leave, to walk away from everything they had known. The more the council tried to find answers, the more their own powers seemed to slip from their grasp. If the humans had found something that could turn the tide of power in their favor, it could mean the end of the council's dominance over the galaxy. With no clear explanation, the council decided to take more drastic measures. They sent emissaries to the remaining human allies, hoping to get information on what had happened. They asked questions, but no one seemed to know. Some claimed to have received messages from the humans, but none were clear. All anyone could say was that the humans had simply decided to leave. No one could explain why. As the days stretched into weeks, the Council's anxiety only grew. The entire galaxy seemed to be holding its breath, waiting for something to happen, for someone to make the next move. Every alien species, from the mighty to the meek, watched the situation with growing concern. The humans had always been unpredictable, but this was something entirely new. The silence was deafening, and in that silence, the Council felt a deep fear they had never experienced before. What if the humans were gone for good? And what if, just maybe, they would never return? Days turned into weeks, and still there was no word from the humans. The silence hung over the galaxy like a thick fog, choking all sense of normalcy. The alien council was on edge, their confidence shattered by the unexplained disappearance of the humans. Without warning, the very species that had once been so vital to the council's strength was now absent, leaving a massive void in the galactic order. No one knew where they had gone or why. The situation was growing worse. The council's leaders could no longer ignore the unsettling reality that the humans were not just absent. They had chosen to be gone. They had not fled due to an attack or some unexpected catastrophe. Instead, it appeared as if they had simply made a decision to vanish, to walk away from their alliances and their position in the galaxy. The implications of this were staggering. If the humans had left by choice, it could mean they had uncovered something powerful enough to make them abandon everything they had worked for. The Council, consumed by their growing paranoia, began to dig deeper. Their intelligence officers scoured every corner of known space, seeking answers that remained elusive. It was during one of these investigations that something strange surfaced. A cryptic message was found among the remnants of a human fleet, hidden deep in a classified communication channel. The message was short and disjointed, but its contents were clear enough to send chills down the spines of the council members who read it. It spoke of an ancient artifact, one that humans had discovered on a remote planet, a power that could alter the course of history itself. The message was written in hurried, desperate terms, as though the sender was afraid that someone, or something, was watching. The council was shaken. They had heard rumors of such an artifact before, but nothing concrete had ever surfaced. It was said to be a relic of a long-lost civilization, a power that even the oldest races in the galaxy feared. Some believed it was a weapon capable of destroying entire worlds, while others thought it could grant its wielder dominion over time and space. The truth was that no one knew for sure, but what was clear was that the humans had found it, and they had kept it hidden from the rest of the galaxy. Panic set in once more. The council leaders now feared that the humans, armed with such a power, could no longer be controlled. They might have the ability to topple the established order and reshape the galaxy in their image. It was a terrifying thought, one that no one had dared to consider before. The balance of power was shifting, and the council was at risk of being left behind. In an effort to gain control of the situation, the council decided to take matters into their own hands. They dispatched a fleet of ships, their best soldiers and officers, to track down the humans. Their mission was simple: find the humans, retrieve the artifact, and bring the humans back into the fold. They could not afford to let this discovery slip out of their grasp. The artifact's power could not be allowed to remain in human hands. The council would not allow their dominance to be threatened. As the alien fleet moved toward the last known coordinates of the humans, the tension in the council chamber was palpable. Every leader knew that time was running out. The humans, once seen as allies, had now become a threat, and the council had no idea how to stop them. The vast distance between the council's headquarters and the human colonies only added to the pressure. The fleet would take weeks to reach the humans, and every day that passed felt like an eternity. The council had no choice but to wait, anxiously watching the progress of their ships as they journeyed deeper into unknown space. The more the council studied the humans' sudden disappearance, the more they realized how little they understood about their former allies. The humans had always been an unpredictable species, But now they were something entirely different. Their disappearance wasn't the result of a military defeat or a sudden uprising. It was a choice, an intentional, calculated decision to step away from everything they had known. And that was what terrified the Council the most. What had the humans discovered? And what did they plan to do with their newfound knowledge? The Council's panic reached a fever pitch as they waited for answers. They could no longer pretend that the humans were simply a small, insignificant species among the stars. The artifact, whatever it was, had given them something the Council could not control: knowledge, power, and perhaps even the ability to change the course of the galaxy. The Council realized they could not afford to ignore the humans any longer. They had to act before it was too late. But the more the Council scrambled for answers, the more they found themselves in the dark. The humans had always been secretive, but now they were beyond reach. The Alien Council had never felt so powerless, so utterly helpless in the face of an unknown threat. The fear that had taken root in the chamber began to spread throughout the galaxy. If the humans had truly found something that could change everything, there was no telling what they might do next. The galaxy stood on the edge of a precipice, and no one knew how deep the fall would be. As the alien fleet made its way deeper into space, heading toward the last known location of the humans, the tension within the Council grew more unbearable with each passing day. The long journey through uncharted sectors of the galaxy only heightened the unease. The Council's finest ships, sleek and powerful, glided silently through the black void, the crew aboard aware of the heavy responsibility they carried. They were racing against time, but time was no longer on their side. Every moment that passed seemed to stretch the anxiety among the Council members to its breaking point. Back at the Council's headquarters, the leaders were glued to their communication screens, waiting for any sign of progress. They had no idea what they would find when the fleet reached the human colonies, but there was no turning back now. They had committed to finding the humans and retrieving the artifact, no matter what it took. Each member of the Council was privately afraid that they would return too late, that the humans, with their newfound power, would have already made their move. The thought alone was enough to send chills through the most experienced leaders, some of whom had once underestimated the humans. The realization that humanity now held the key to the galaxy's future filled them with dread. If the humans had indeed discovered the artifact, there was no predicting what they might do with it. They had already proven that they were capable of great things. Now, they had the power to shape the galaxy in their image, and that power could destroy the delicate balance the Council had fought so hard to maintain. Meanwhile, aboard the fleet's flagship, Commander Ralvok sat in his command chair, staring at the stars outside. He had fought in countless battles, negotiated peace deals, and led his forces through some of the galaxy's darkest moments. But this was different. He was not preparing for war. He was preparing to find answers to a question that haunted every leader. What had the humans discovered? What had made them walk away? He had seen humanity's resilience firsthand, but he had never seen them act like this, disappear without warning, leaving no trace behind. Something was different now, something powerful. The commander had been briefed on the rumors of the artifact, but he still could not believe it. He had heard the stories, but they were always dismissed as myth, tales of an ancient, forgotten power. He had never imagined that such an artifact would be real, or that the humans would have found it. He ran a hand over his face, trying to push aside the rising dread. There was no time for doubt. They had a mission to complete. The fleet finally reached the outskirts of the human colonies after what felt like an eternity. The space around the planets was quiet, almost too quiet. There were no signs of life in the usual busy trade lanes or communications hubs. The ships that once populated the system were gone, and the once thriving human colonies stood eerily abandoned. Nothing had changed since the last reports came in, except for one thing. A strange signal emanated from a distant planet. It was faint but unmistakable. The Council's intelligence officers immediately zeroed in on the source. It was coming from a remote world on the edge of the system, a planet that had never been of much interest to anyone before. But now, it seemed, it held the answers to everything. Ralvok's ship descended toward the planet's surface, the crew prepared for whatever awaited them. The planet was small and desolate, a place where few had ventured in centuries. The land was barren, with towering mountains and deep, dark valleys. There was an unsettling stillness in the air, as though the planet itself was holding its breath. The fleet's sensors detected nothing out of the ordinary at first, but the signal grew stronger as they descended into the atmosphere. It was as if something was drawing them in, something powerful and ancient. When they landed, the scene before them was like nothing they had ever seen. The planet, though seemingly lifeless, had an aura of mystery surrounding it. They could feel it in the air, a strange energy, thick with the weight of something ancient. The signal had led them to a remote valley, where the ground was cracked and broken, as if something large had been buried beneath the surface for centuries. The Council's special operations teams, trained for every scenario imaginable, disembarked and began to investigate. As they made their way into the valley, the landscape began to shift. The energy grew stronger, pulsing with an almost rhythmic pattern. It wasn't long before they uncovered what they had been searching for, a large, hidden structure, built into the very rock of the planet. It was old, ancient beyond their comprehension, and yet it was unmistakably human in design. The shape of it was like a monument, covered in strange symbols and markings. The Council's officers carefully examined the structure, their minds racing with the implications. This was it. The artifact was hidden here, and the humans had been the ones to discover it. Ralvok stepped forward, his heart pounding in his chest. The structure was unlike anything he had ever seen, yet there was something familiar about it. He could feel the power emanating from it, an energy that seemed to resonate with the very core of his being. The Council's scientists scanned the structure, confirming that it was indeed of human origin. But what kind of power had they unlocked here? Was it the artifact the Council feared? What were the humans doing with it? As the team continued to investigate, a startling discovery was made. A human-made message, written in a language the Council could not decipher, was found near the entrance. The message was old, far older than anything the Council had ever encountered. But the humans had left it for a reason. They had hidden it away in this place, hoping someone would find it. The message spoke of knowledge that could change everything, of power that could reshape the fabric of reality itself. Ralvok's mind raced as he tried to comprehend the full meaning of what they had uncovered. This was no ordinary discovery. The humans had not just found an artifact. They had found something much more dangerous, something that could bend the very laws of the galaxy to their will. And they had chosen to hide it away from the Council, away from everyone. The reality of it hit Ralvok all at once. The galaxy had just changed. The humans had the power to rewrite history, to create a new order. And now, the Council's greatest fear had become reality. The humans had control, and there was nothing the Council could do to take it from them. The revelation shook Ralvok to his core. The message, still partially obscured by the centuries of dust and decay, was like a puzzle he couldn't solve. The symbols were alien, even to his trained eyes. But it didn't take long for his team to confirm what they all feared. This wasn't just an artifact. It was a key, an ancient, dormant key to untold power. The energy that emanated from it was unlike anything the Council had ever encountered. For a moment, Ralvok felt a strange pull, an undeniable sense of connection to the artifact, as if it was calling out to him. "Commander, you need to see this," one of his officers called from across the excavation site, snapping him out of his trance. Ralvok approached the officer, his mind still reeling. The officer had discovered something more, another layer to the ancient structure. Beneath the surface of the rock, there was a hidden passage, leading downward into the heart of the planet. The air in the passage was heavy, thick with the weight of forgotten time. The officers made their way into the darkness, their lights illuminating the walls covered in strange markings that seemed to pulse with energy. The atmosphere was oppressive, as if they were intruding on something sacred, something not meant for their eyes. The deeper they went, the more the power around them grew, and soon the entire team was experiencing it. A sensation of weightlessness, of being unmoored from time and space. It was as if the fabric of reality itself was bending around them, warping, changing in subtle ways. The walls of the tunnel seemed to shimmer, and in the distance, they could make out a faint glow. An unnatural, almost hypnotic light. The team moved toward it, cautiously, knowing that whatever awaited them could change everything. At the end of the tunnel, they found what they had been searching for. A chamber, vast and empty, save for one solitary object. It was a pedestal, carved from some otherworldly material that seemed to absorb light rather than reflect it. Atop the pedestal rested the artifact. It was beautiful, yet terrifying in its simplicity. A sphere no larger than a human fist, its surface smooth and translucent. Within it swirled an eerie glow, shifting and changing in ways that defied natural laws. The artifact was alive, pulsing with energy. Ralvok's heart raced. This was it, the artifact the Council had feared. This was the power that had drawn the humans away from the galaxy. He could feel its potential, its vast, untapped energy. It was a force that could reshape the entire galaxy, a force that no one, not even the Council, could control. But the humans had found it, and they had chosen to protect it, to hide it from the galaxy, from everyone. The officer who had first discovered the hidden passage approached the pedestal cautiously, reaching out to touch the artifact. But as soon as his fingers made contact, the artifact reacted, sending a jolt of energy through the chamber. The team staggered back, their bodies trembling from the force. Ralvok felt the surge of energy as though it were coursing through his own veins. For a brief moment, everything around him became clear, as if he could see beyond the veil of reality itself. Visions flashed before his eyes, glimpses of ancient civilizations long lost, battles fought in the name of power, and above all, the endless cycle of destruction and rebirth that had shaped the galaxy for eons. The visions were overwhelming, too much for his mind to process. He pulled back, gasping for air, the weight of the artifact's knowledge still pressing against him. "This is beyond anything we've ever encountered," Ralvok murmured, his voice hoarse. The officers, equally stunned, slowly backed away from the pedestal. The artifact was no longer just an object. It was a gateway, a bridge to something far greater than they could comprehend. But as the shock of the vision began to fade, the reality of their situation set in. The humans had already understood this. They had discovered this power, and more importantly, they had chosen to keep it hidden. The Council had been searching for them, trying to reclaim control, but the humans were no longer a part of this galaxy. They had found something that made them different, something that made them gods in comparison to the rest of the galaxy's species. "Commander, what do we do?" one of the officers asked, his voice trembling. "If we take it, it could change everything. If we leave it, the humans." Ralvok stood still, staring at the artifact. The humans had made their decision. They had chosen to walk away, to leave the galaxy behind, and to guard this power with their very lives. They had the artifact, and they had the knowledge to wield it. The Council, with all its strength, had nothing. They were powerless before it. "We leave," Ralvok said, his voice filled with a mix of resignation and awe. "We can't take this. We can't force them to return. The galaxy's fate is no longer in our hands. We've lost." It was a hard truth, one that the Council could never have predicted. The humans, once seen as nothing more than a fledgling species, had become the galaxy's greatest mystery. Their power was unmatched, and it was clear now that they had outgrown their place in the galaxy. They had moved on, leaving everyone else behind. The artifact was theirs, and only they knew how to wield it. As Ralvok and his team made their way back to the fleet, leaving the artifact and the chamber behind, they knew that the galaxy had changed forever. The humans had walked away from the Council, and in doing so, they had revealed a truth no one had anticipated. True power was not in the hands of the established order, but in the hands of those who were willing to step beyond it, to choose a new path. The Council had lost its place in the galaxy, and the humans had become something far greater, something untouchable, something that could reshape the future of the stars. And as the fleet departed the desolate world, leaving behind the last remnants of a bygone era, the galaxy held its breath, waiting for the humans' next move. What they would do with their newfound power was a question that no one could answer, but one thing was certain: the humans were no longer just a part of the galaxy. They had become its rulers in a way no one had ever expected, and the Council could do nothing to stop them. The fleet's engines hummed quietly as Ralvok and his team made their way back to the vast expanse of space, the reality of what had just transpired beginning to sink in. The galaxy, once a well-ordered place under the Council's strict control, now seemed like a fragile, shifting thing, its future uncertain and unstable. They had come to reclaim the humans, to understand their disappearance, to secure the artifact. But in the end, they had only confirmed their worst fear. The humans had gone beyond the reach of the Council's power, and there was no turning back. Ralvok sat alone in his command chair, staring out at the stars. The silence in the ship was heavy, as if even the universe itself had paused to take a breath. The crew, though experienced in the harshest of battles and the most complex negotiations, now found themselves facing an enemy they didn't fully understand. The humans, once considered the least dangerous of species, had become the greatest enigma in the galaxy. They had found the artifact, and they had chosen to walk away, disappearing into the unknown, leaving the galaxy to wonder what they would do next. As the fleet neared the Council's headquarters, Ralvok received word from the highest command. An emergency council meeting had been scheduled. The leaders of the galaxy's most powerful species were gathering, and the news of the humans' disappearance and the discovery of their power had sent shockwaves through the political landscape. It was no longer about finding the humans or retrieving the artifact. Now, the Council was faced with the question of how to handle a species that had outgrown them, a species that held the power to reshape the very fabric of the galaxy. The Council's chamber was filled with leaders from every corner of the galaxy. The massive insectoid species from Virelon, the highly intelligent, telepathic Morath, and the long-lived ancient Dorians who had seen civilizations rise and fall over millennia. There was a palpable tension in the air, each leader uncertain of what to say, how to approach the delicate situation. The humans had become a force no one had anticipated, and no one knew how to react. Ralvok stood before them, recounting the findings from the mission. He spoke of the artifact, the power it contained, and the humans' decision to hide it away on a forgotten world. The Council leaders listened in silence, their faces unreadable. Some seemed anxious, others skeptical, but none could deny the truth of what Ralvok had seen with his own eyes. The humans had discovered something ancient, something powerful, and they had chosen to walk away from the galaxy, leaving the Council with nothing but questions. The humans have become something we cannot control, Ralvok said, his voice steady but heavy with the weight of the truth. They have outgrown our system. The artifact is theirs, and they alone know how to wield its power. We are no longer their protectors, nor their rulers. They have stepped beyond the reach of our influence. A murmur rippled through the chamber as the leaders processed this revelation. The Dorians, known for their patience and wisdom, were the first to speak. The question is not whether the humans have surpassed us, one of their elders said, his voice ancient and calm. The question is whether they will use this power for good or for destruction. We have seen species like them before, those who, when faced with great power, fall to the temptation of domination. Will they do the same, or will they walk a different path? The insectoid leader, Commander Vreeder, hissed from the depths of his mandibles. The artifact is too dangerous to be left in their hands. We cannot simply let them go. They are unpredictable, volatile. If they choose to use this power against us, there will be nothing we can do to stop them. There was a growing sense of fear in the chamber, the realization settling like a cloud over the gathered leaders. The Marath, normally calm and analytical, were visibly disturbed. We cannot ignore the consequences of the humans' actions. They have chosen to leave us behind, and we must accept that. But we must also understand that they will not remain silent forever. Their absence is but a temporary silence. Eventually, they will return, and when they do, we must be ready for them. We must find a way to prepare, to understand what they are capable of, before it is too late. Ralvok nodded in agreement. We must be ready for whatever comes next. The Council must find a way to monitor the humans without intruding upon their self-imposed exile. We must understand what they are doing, what they plan to do with the artifact. It is no longer just about control. It is about survival. If the humans decide to use the artifact against us, there will be no galaxy left to rule. The Council leaders fell silent, each lost in their own thoughts, contemplating the same question that had plagued the galaxy for weeks. What would the humans do next? What would they do with their newfound power? And how would the galaxy respond to it? It was a question that no one could answer, but one that everyone knew would shape the future of the stars. Outside the Council's chamber, the galaxy continued to spin. The stars twinkled in the vast expanse of space, unaware of the turmoil brewing just beyond their reach. But the leaders of the galaxy understood now. The humans were no longer a part of their world. They had chosen to walk away, to remove themselves from the galactic stage. But the power they had uncovered was too great to be ignored. It was only a matter of time before the humans made their return. And when they did, the galaxy would have to face the consequences of their decision to walk away. As the meeting adjourned, the leaders of the Council began to disperse, their minds heavy with the knowledge of what was to come. Ralvok stood alone in the chamber for a moment, staring out at the stars. The galaxy was no longer the same. The humans had walked away, and in doing so, they had rewritten the rules of the game. The Council could no longer control the fate of the galaxy. The humans had taken their destiny into their own hands, and there was nothing anyone could do to stop them. The future was uncertain, but one thing was clear. The humans had become the galaxy's most powerful players, and the Council would have to live with the consequences of their actions. The time of the human silence had come to an end. The galaxy held its breath, waiting for what would come next, and when the humans returned, no one knew whether they would be saviors or conquerors.